Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be jumping into part 2 of the Emani Moss case. If you haven't actually seen part 1, I highly suggest you do so before watching this video because there's some important information that just may not make sense if you just start watching from here. So I'm gonna, let you guys do that and then come right back here and we're gonna start the video. So without further ado, let's jump back into it. Justice without borders, let me walk upon the water. So at this point, a battered and beaten Emani had just had her first seizure. And instead of being taken to a hospital, she was just left in her bed to sleep it off, I guess.
Imam visited his dying daughter a few times while she was obviously sick and confined to her bed. He claimed that he had tried to feed her, but her body kept rejecting the food and water that he would provide. She was so thin at this point that he could wrap his hand around her wrist. On the 28th of October, 2013, Emani Gabrielle Moss died at the age of 10, finally getting relief in death that she was so horribly denied in life.
Tiffany, once again, being the great person that she is, does not call an ambulance for Emani. She actually just called Imani's father, Iman, instead.
When Iman returned home, everything looked normal. The kids were playing together, and Tiffany was on the couch watching TV. Imani's body was laying on the floor, wrapped in a soiled blanket. Iman pleaded with Tiffany to call the police, but she repeatedly declined to do so.
Tiffany refused, saying that she would lose her children. So now all of a sudden she cares about children. She then goes on to suggest that they find some way to hide the body. Wheels were spinning at this point for Tiffany and Iman, and once again, this being, 3 times now? They did not call for help. They instead just picked her body up and put her into the computer room. The family just moved on like normal, like there was not a dead child in the apartment. And honestly, that is one of the most disturbing things that's coming out of this case. But don't worry, there's plenty more to be disturbed about. Just wait. Iman said that he would come home from work and grieve next to the body of his daughter in the computer room. This is so eerie to me. Honestly, like, this disturbs me on a level that I didn't know I can actually be disturbed. He just sat there next to the decomposing body of his daughter and cried. It's too late to cry. It really is. At this point, they've passed the ability to be able to cry. They ignored all of the signs that she was sick. They ignored all the signs that she should have went to the hospital for said sicknesses. It's just sad. It really is just sad.
Iman finally got on board with the idea of covering up Imani's death. They were going to bury her and let her pass as a runaway speak for itself. Tiffany went out to buy new sheets for the bed because the old ones were covered in urine and feces. While Iman went to Home Depot to purchase a large trash can, some trash bags, charcoal and lighter fluid, and duct tape. This all happened on Halloween of all nights. The two ultimately decided that they would put Imani's body into the trash can, drive it out somewhere secluded, and light the whole thing on fire.
When they tried to put Imani's body into the trash can, they discovered that rigor mortis had actually set in, making her body virtually non-flexible. So at this point, I kind of thought, okay, maybe they were going to give up, realizing that their plan wasn't going to work and they're just going to turn themselves in or what have you. But what actually happened was they decided that they were just going to make her fit. They duct taped her limbs together and broke and fashioned her in a way that she would fit into the trash can.
On the 1st of November, they loaded their 2 remaining children into the family car. They stuffed a trash can containing Emani's body into the back of the car and drove to find a place to burn her.
Eventually, they found a spot off the beaten path where they could burn something and it would go virtually unnoticed.
They removed the trash can from the car and began the burning process. They then packed the remaining space in the trash can with charcoal and doused her body with lighter fluid. Once everything was properly in place, they then set the trash can ablaze.
They stood there for a while watching Imani's body burn before they realized it wasn't actually burning like they thought it would. They thought that they would just put the charcoal down in the lighter fluid, light it, and she was just going to turn into complete ash like she was in a crematorium. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen at all, actually. And when they discovered that that was not going to happen, they put out the fire and loaded their kids back into the car and chucked Imani into the back as well and drove back home.
The next day, Iman went back to work like normal, with Imani's body still in the back of the car. He ended up confessing to a close friend that urged him to call 911 immediately. He spent some time thinking about the situation before finally calling 911. Not to say that his daughter was dead, but because he was suicidal.
Iman had told Tiffany that he had contacted the police, and all jokes aside, but just like TK, she did the race. She grabbed up her two children and put them in the car and grabbed Imani's body from the back of the car and threw it into some bushes at the apartment complex and drove off like a bat out of hell.
Iman had told the police that Imani had drank some chemicals and that's what caused her to pass away. What he didn't know is that the police had already found Imani's charred body and did not believe his story, so they confronted him.
Iman said he panicked when he saw his dead daughter's body and he wanted to cremate her, but the police were not buying that story at all and he was quickly arrested. And when he was arrested, he wasted no time in giving up his wife Tiffany as an accomplice in Imani's death.
Tiffany dropped her kids off at her mother's home and turned herself in. Iman would plead guilty and was given a life sentence. Instead of taking a plea, Tiffany decided that she would go to trial, where she would also decide to represent herself, despite the judge recommending that she got a lawyer.
If you haven't seen Tiffany's trial, you should actually see it. It's a complete shit show. She decided to represent herself for some reason, and you can tell that she's not Harvard educated by any means.
Tiffany set herself up to fail. She had no opening statement, no cross-examination, no closing argument, nothing.
Ma'am, with respect to count one, the jury has found you guilty of murder and other counts contained in the indictment against you. They have considered the circumstances surrounding that murder and found that aggravating circumstances exist. With respect to count one, ma'am, I impose the sentence of death. Counts 2 and 3 are vacated by operation of law. They're felony murder charges. Counts 4 and 5, the cruelty charges, of course, merge. With respect to count 6, I impose a 20-year sentence to be served in confinement, ma'am.
Tiffany Nicole Moss was sentenced to death for the murder of Emani Gabrielle Moss. She's being held at the Arundel State Prison as the only female on death row in the state of Georgia. One can only hope that she finds the strength to forgive herself for her heinous actions. Thank you guys so much for giving Imani's case a moment of your time. The way this precious 10-year-old tragically died was so horrible that no one should ever have to go through it. But Imani's case is an important one, so please share it with the people that you know and some that you don't. Make sure to subscribe for more cases and comment your thoughts down below. Until next time, be safe.